We are Counterculture Inc. How's everybody doing tonight? Wild, huh? Wild. You had brought up an issue with, not an issue, but because one of your things is like we talked about last time was, I don't want everybody fucking agreeing with each other all the time.
Yep.
And you kind of said yesterday, you're like, hey, listen, if there's not enough friction, I'm going to start asking questions.
Yeah.
I'm going to start creating problems.
Because I just want to ask, too, to see what everyone else's point of view, too, is. Maybe I'll just act like, because I know what other people would ask in a certain situation. If we're talking about
when it's
COVID.
not your expertise,
yeah.
You're like, I know what 90% of the people listening are going to ask me right now.
Yeah, I could do it from their perspective, because then it'll just put a different point. It doesn't mean that's what I believe. I might just ask to see what Tyler thinks about dancing cops, you know?
Well, you said something in the live in Philly, and we were all passionate about all the cops. Me and Nick, and you were like, what's the problem with that? Oh, this district attorneys. You were like, what were they doing? And I was like, what do you mean, what were they doing?
I was
just
curious.
Like, I was just curious. You're like, why is that a problem? Like, why is it? You asked, why is it a problem that they investigate cops? And
yeah.
I was like, but we were all fucking.
What do you mean? You don't know our world. You don't know our life. What we have to deal with.
It was perfect. I remember rewatching it, going, that was good.
But I just know, because I really don't know either. But I also know it's like, well, what is the issue with the district attorney? Like, how do they operate? How do they get their positions? All that.
District attorneys are supposed to be the good guys. They're supposed to be the ones that are prosecuting bad guys.
Right.
And they're supposed to work with law enforcement. They're supposed to like investigators that are really, really good investigators are literally supposed to work. Like if they're trying to solve a solution, create a problem, solve a problem, create a solution.
Well, they are creating problems. Depending on
they're supposed to go work with the district attorney, and the district attorney can literally tell them verbatim what they need in a case to go forward in court.
Okay.
So they'll go, okay, and they'll make sure when they make their arrests and they do their investigations, they do everything to a T, because district attorney really wants this hot button issue to be solved, like guns, big in Orlando. But the way the case law is working and everything, like convicting somebody with a fucking gun is like impossible right now. You have to make sure you check all of these boxes, because if the gun does not go through this process at any point, from being collected from where it was in the car to evidence, at any point, if anybody deviates from the process, you cannot prove beyond a reasonable doubt.
It's obsolete.
That
like they have to throw it out, or what?
They cannot prove that it wasn't somebody else's gun. It's just retarded. So traditionally, investigators and cops worked with the district attorney's office to get a good case. Nowadays, it was like, how do you know they're Soros planted? The Soros planted district attorneys come in, and all they want to do is
George Soros?
George Soros, yeah.
Oh,
all they want to do is go after cops, prosecute cops, and let criminals go free. That is their goal. And it's to get to the conspiracy side of it.
Well, you know, he funded Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
Like $50 million or something.
To get to the conspiracy side of it.
That's wild.
They just want to disrupt culture, or the way of life. They want to disrupt, like, it's like me embedding myself in your home and disrupting the trust between you and sorry, I'll bleep out his name, but your son and you, like convincing your son that you don't have his best interest in mind, and maybe he should start thinking for himself, and we should start challenging dad. Like, we should start looking into him. Like, is he, and you're like, what the fuck?
Well, did you ever see any of his old interviews from long time ago? Have you ever heard?
I've never seen a George Soros interview. There's
one where he's talking, where he says he views himself as a god and wanting to be God and stuff like that. And this was I want to say back in the 80s or something, or maybe early 90s, where he's talking about wanting to be God and how he views himself as one.
Wow.
And that wants that power. Like, so there's people that are like money driven. There's people that are like material driven. There's people that are status driven or power. He's a straight power dude. Yeah. Like, it doesn't mean anything. When you
compare yourself to God,
you got a problem.
Yeah.
Well, he calls himself a god. Like,
yeah, because that goes
you
past
it's
God complex as somebody that has just has a weird ego problem. But people, I don't think it's a real condition, but people call it, oh, he's got God complex. Like he thinks he's inferior to everybody, or not superior to everybody else.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
that guy has got God complex. But to call yourself God or a God, like
That's wild. What was I supposed to ask you? Oh, during the COVID stuff. Okay. So during COVID.
Hold on, let me send this real quick.
All right. You sent her the money yet?
I did. And she's like trying to use other cards. She's like, everything's declining. I'm like, well, there's not enough fucking money in it, dude.
Do you know how many credit cards? I don't use my debit or anything.
I could literally be like, I'm doing something. Please don't bother me. Can you handle it unless someone's dead? And she will just continue to bother me and not handle it. I'm like, what the fuck, dude?
Dude, something happened.
What?
I'm getting a lot of random followers all of a sudden. I did something. I did something wrong.
Okay, so.
So during COVID. So, and I know I talked to you about this. I was like, I want to talk to you about this from a cop's perspective, from a firefighter's perspective, because like when I saw people during COVID, getting arrested or, not wearing a mask, and to the extent if I see someone someone's in a business, like I can understand if the business doesn't want them there, I get that, because they can trespass. Mm-hmm. It's your business as an American to have who you want in your restaurant. I believe that. It's like if they're not wanting to leave and if that's their choice, that's their choice. Private property. Being out in public funded parks, all this stuff, and you're not wearing your mask, would you, if you were ordered to arrest people for not wearing a mask and being compliant, would you do that?
No. And
you would not?
No. And because I've talked about it while it was going on. So first off,
but you're going to
those cases are so small. They were in very liberal cities, and most of the viral content we saw was Canada.
Well, so I sent you a story. I sent you a lot, but one of them was it was a church.
Canada.
And that was Canada?
Yeah. I remember that one.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that was Canada.
Yeah.
But I sent you the story. I didn't read it myself. So
well, I mean, they purposely leave that out.
Yeah. Okay.
But Canada that's not a free country.
No, it's not
at all. And I especially love it when Canadians come tell us how to run our fucking country. Like
yeah,
Jim
get
Carrey,
the fuck out of here.
Like, go back to fucking Canada. But anyways, no, I wouldn't. And I covered I don't covered it like I'm a journalist, but I spoke about it while it was happening in real time. Like
I covered this.
That's like exactly how the fucking Nazis started.
Yeah,
exactly how the Nazis. And it's to think that we could not and just be a 2030 version of modern day Nazis. Like it's very. And I tell people all the time, dude. I do not work for the government. I work for the people. My leader, my sheriff, was elected by the people, who in turn you elected me because he hired me, right? So I'm an extension of him. City police chiefs, they're appointed by public officials who are elected by the people, right? So police, deputy sheriff, doesn't matter. You are a representative of the people. So we police our own as society. So I don't do shit. I'm not a government employee. I'm not a GS employee. I'm a citizen who is given the opportunity and the trust and the responsibility from society to put a badge on and enforce laws. They said, we trust you, essentially, through extensions, we trust you to do what's right because we are choosing not to do that.
Yeah.
So it all goes back to the social contract theory, where as a tribe, we decided that we have to live by certain rules and ethics and codes in order to survive. And everybody can't just do whatever the fuck they want because we would crumble as a tribe or a society. Well, we need to make sure we're always going to have outliers that feel like they don't have to follow these rules, and there needs to be punishment for them.
Right.
Which, I think it started back in the shires of England, and that's why they were called shire reeves, where sheriff came from.
Oh, okay.
That's college for you, baby.
That's cool. I failed, so I didn't go to class.
But that was a very long story of how I would justify it to myself, my family. I feel terrible for the guys who were 18, 20, 19 years in who had to make that decision, because I know they were out there where Luckily I'm in Florida. They are not enforcing shit.
Yeah.
They would tell people they were enforcing it, but they were like, don't enforce it.
We're out here doing this.
Yeah, like, do not.
We're showing up, but
they were like,
we're doing a drive-by.
Nobody is to enforce COVID mandates at all.
Yeah.
Without a watch commander's approval, which means the watch commander's still not going to say no.
Which is wild, too, that think
person out there.
You have to edit this whole podcast. But, so DeSantis. So, like, think about him, like, how strong you have to be just to be the only governor, like, nope, we're going to do the 2 weeks thing, and then we're back open. Nope, we're not going to play this game. Like, he saw the bird's eye view. I go, man, dude, to be the guy, because they were just ripping him for 4 years, however long, but he's like, nope, we're not doing that. Our numbers are good, and the media was kept trying to, like, their hospitals are overrun. Even when they were saying that our hospitals were overrun, they weren't overrun. These hospitals were busy. Hospitals get busy. It happened before COVID. Yeah. The same thing where they would get backed up. They were also doing weird things where they were to keep people apart, not in the same vent structure or something where it'd be like every other room in the ER. But we're full, but half the beds are still available. But it's like a extra bit of social distancing. So every other room they'd fill, but the other room, the middle room, they'd act like wasn't there. They do shit like that. Yeah. And so when you see that, you're like, dude, this is nutty. It's not full. The hospital's not full. I remember they were saying that, you'll have to divert everybody because this was my city that I worked with. This is one of the cities that I worked in that I took patients to every day. They're like, yeah, that hospital's full. We have to divert. Well, we ended up having to go there because we had a patient like right outside. So we just went in anyways. And dude, they were not full. It was like a normal Thursday. Yeah. Yep. So I go, dude, like, what are they saying? And then they'll play, well, maybe it's a telephone game,
Yeah.
They're just always making excuses. I'm like, this is what I'm seeing with my own eyes. So, and I never took any, I'll just be honest, I never took any like extra precaution when I was going in these calls. I think I dressed up, I totally gowned up one time.
When it started.
And
because when COVID started, it was like, oh shit, is this real?
No, I didn't even do it then. Until they forced me, and then I'm like, okay, fine. But then you look at the flu numbers. Do you know how many cases of flu there are every year in the United States?
Probably a lot.
Millions, right? There are millions, millions and millions. There was only recorded 2,100 in all of the United States, Darren.
2,100 cases of the flu? Because they turned them all into COVID.
Yeah. So I just look at that and I go, that's impossible. What's up? I was like, that's impossible.
My sunglasses, brothers.
I'm like, that's impossible. It isn't. You don't go from millions, 20 million cases. I don't remember. It's probably 10, 20 million cases of the flu every year. And then go to 2,000. It doesn't make sense.
No.
I think there was only one case in Texas, if I remember that correctly.
Of the standard flu.
Yeah.
The rest were COVID.
And I go,
let me tell you a crazy story.
Yeah.
So I thought I had a cold. This was during COVID, like right in the middle. And like I had this cough that wouldn't go away. And it was in the point where I couldn't sleep because I was coughing. Like I had to sit up.
It's tuberculosis. It's TB.
Well, so I went, I got a temperature of 105. And I was outside the hospital waiting because the waiting lines were outside, and I had to sit down, and I started passing out, and they had to like rush me inside, and I think I had either the 105 or I was hitting 106. So they brought me in. I remember feeling like oh, this is what it feels like when your body's shutting down. Like it was burning, but not fire burn, but it was an awful feeling, like toxic feeling, and so they tested me. Once they got me like under the meds that I needed to have, they tested me for COVID. They tested me for COVID again, negative. And then they said before they start treating me, they're like, we got to test you for COVID. I was like, you're not testing me for COVID again. I was like, I know what you're doing. Mm-hmm. You're trying to get something to say this is COVID. It's not COVID. And they were like, listen, if you don't let us test you a third time, we by no choice of ours, have to put you on the third floor with the COVID patients. We have to assume you have COVID. I'm like, even though you tested me twice.
Yeah.
So I had to let them test me a third time. So they didn't stick me with the COVID patients in order to get me to have COVID. It turns out I had pneumonia in both my lungs because I was a retard and I already have asthma. So I was wearing the same mask every shift. I wasn't sweating, so I was breathing in bacteria, and I just created my own pneumonia.
Yeah.
And but yeah, I had pneumonia during COVID.
Well, they talk about
died.
that. They talk about how that was worse for people's health in general, wearing these freaking masks, because all the particles and stuff that you're breathing in from those surgical masks, and go on. And it didn't do anything to stop the spread, because they would do the test. They would show the shit going through the masks. It's like, dude,
I loved the memes that came out where like this mask was used to stop this, and they're all these high tech gas masks, and the most deadly virus in the world, this mask. Like, it's like, or the memes where like people were sitting in restaurants and like COVID would go, and like if you were standing at a but COVID couldn't get you if you were sitting down and taking your mask off to eat.
Or people were
how COVID works.
People were cutting
to play the instruments.
Well, that and then eating through it, and they were serious. They weren't joking.
That's when I realized our country has way more mentally ill people in it than we anticipated.
Yeah. Mental illness is making more sense to me now.
I mean, but do you think COVID was a giant social experiment to see what they could get away with?
Yes. I think it was a bunch of that. I also think it was
they
profit.
were probing.
I think it was also profit with members of Congress. They were all invested in Pfizer. Like, it's insider trading is not illegal for them. Nancy Pelosi, by the numbers, is the number one stock trader in the world by her success rate. She's more than Warren Buffett, all these people, as far as her success in actually probably like 100% or something. I can't remember what it was. They had a diagram of it. She is the most successful. So wherever she's putting her money, you need to follow behind her.
Yeah.
So, but insider trading
Dan
is not
Crenshaw.
illegal. Yeah. Who was telling the story about him? He's like, there was some guy that posted Dan Crenshaw. He's like, he got a message from him at 2 a.m. in the morning because he was talking shit.
That was me.
Was it you?
Oh, well, I don't know if that was me that you're talking about, but yeah, no, he messaged. He didn't message. He posted about me at like 2 a.m. I was like, I wonder if this was a little liquid courage.
Well, this guy was like, he goes, this is his words. He said, "What is this fag texting me at 2 a.m. in the morning for?" and I guess he was making fun of his eye patch or something. He's like, he must have been drunk and just texted me and pissed off about what I said. All I did was make fun of his eye patch.
I wonder if it was Frontier Coffee Company, because they were
maybe
the people, or the Boldly Patriotic Podcast. They're on our network.
Yeah.
And he does not like Dan Crenshaw.
No. Well, so what's the? Oh man, I can get into. Well, let's.
Yeah, we got time.
The COVID thing, but when I just saw that, I remember even when we first shut down for 2 weeks, our captain came in. I'm sitting at threes at the time when I was in New Mexico, and captain came in. He goes, "Yep. So I guess it's official. We're going to be shutting down for 2 weeks. We're gonna stop the spread, slow the spread, whatever it was. What was the curve? Stop the curve,
something like that.
Something, yeah. Man, I already forgot.
Didn't work.
Yeah, it didn't. And I told him, I said, it's not going to be 2 weeks. Those were my first words that came out of my mouth. And they all know I loved all the conspiracy stuff, and I'd watch the alien shows and all that. I don't know if I believe in it or whatever, but I loved watching those shows. And I go, dude, it's not going to be for 2 weeks. They're like, yeah, it is. We're going to just stop for 2. Dude, there's no way they would ever close this down any longer. I said, first of all, they've never done this. That's weird.
Yeah.
2, I said, when your plane's delayed, what do they usually do? Like, they tell you an hour, 30 minutes, we're just doing that. And then when there's any type of delay, whatever time they give you, just double it for a minimum. And
because they want to make sure you know that it's going to be delayed, but they're not going to tell you the real time.
If they said we're shutting down for 2 years, people have lost their shit.
Yeah.
But if they say 2 weeks, another 2 weeks,
fall in line.
You know what we're going to do?
Get used to it.
And then all the media. I'd never seen. I mean, look at the media numbers; they just shot up because all the big media all their numbers were down during COVID.
Really?
Everyone was paying attention, and then slowly, I think people started to wake up to all the BS. But I go, dude, it's going to be way longer. There's no way it's just 2 weeks. I didn't think it'd be 2 years. That's still
California was shut down for years.
Yeah, that still boggles me. I mean, the impact that it had on. More people died from our solution than the problem.
Oh, yeah.
So, and leaders know this in any business, and they say, when we're going to fix it, if we're going to try and fix a problem, the solution can't create more problems.
101.
101. And that's exactly what it did. You want to talk about mental health, secluding people.
Yeah.
Keeping people cooped up. Like, dude, I'll even say, like, if I'm cooped up editing videos and I haven't gotten outside and done anything, I'm like, fuck, I feel like shit. I need to go talk to somebody, get out of here. You know what I mean? It's just, if you're staying inside all day,
and people's way of lives, like they're fucking lost their jobs. The businesses were shutting down. And I love the fact that really, no matter where I know Florida pretty much reopened immediately.
Yeah.
But a lot of places around the country, like mom and pop stores had to close, but the gigantic chains got to stay open. So mom and pop diners had to close, but Applebee's and Chili's got to stay open. Mom and pop hardware stores had to close, yet Walmart and Lowe's and Home Depot got to stay open. Now, I don't think they should have to close, but God, dude, like you're ruining people's lives, just ruining, and their money for generations is gone. Now their kids don't have businesses to take over.
Yeah.
Their generational wealth is gone. You just destroyed everything.
But you got to save grandma. That's what they all said. You got to save grandma. I got to the point where I was like, fuck grandma.
Yeah,
all right.
fuck grandma.
That's what I'd say to people. When they would throw me that, even firemen, I was like, fuck grandma. It was a shitty excuse to say. I was like, my grandma will tell you to go fuck yourself. She was a spicy woman. She would never. She's like, I'm not taking any of that shit. And I think it's funny, like a lot of these a lot of the community I serve is a lot of elderly. And there's a huge chunk of them that are like, fuck that, I ain't taking that shit. Yeah. And they're still kicking. I think it's hilarious.
Well, I mean, other than the senior citizens, when you saw a story about someone that died of COVID, what was usually the case?
Comorbidities or whatever, or they were fat.
They're fat.
Yeah, they were 400 pounds.
I don't know how that affects COVID. I really don't. But
well, you remember the big 22-year-old story, right? Where they were like, this 22-year-old. They never showed a picture. They said his name. They said this 22-year-old died of COVID, and that's the story they were running with. Yeah. People found the receipts, as the kids say. Showed this 400-pound fucking kid. God. I'm not kidding. He's like 350 or something like that.
22 years old.
Yeah, he's like real young, and they're like, see, it's killing our young, but also
obesity is fucking killing our young.
Yeah. Everything that came from COVID is killing our young more than COVID itself. Period. Heart attacks, strokes, sudden death is up 40% in people under 30.
And people under 30 because of COVID?
Well, so
or just the way the country's running?
Just in general, people under 30, sudden death, heart attacks, strokes are up 40% in people under 30. Up 40, so almost half of what it used to be.
Yeah.
So is it vaccines? I don't know, but they can just see generally across the board it's up, which is wild. Then you look at the graph of life expectancy. Like every year you could see life expectancy. Like people were living longer, and also the rate of births and deaths in the U.S. I think 2024 was the first year it went down. You see across, like I'll have to show you the graph. It's doing this.
It's because of abortions.
Yeah, it's like
they don't count for a birth, but they count for a death.
Do they?
No.
Do they? No. It wouldn't. I wouldn't put it past. I wouldn't put it past
zero statistically.
It's just
never happened.
Obsolete. That's wild. I wonder if that's. I want to find those numbers actually. But that was the first year you start seeing down, like the average life like increasing. Like it'd be like, oh, your average is 60, 62 and a half to 63. Now it's going down. And it was like, whoa, we haven't had this happen. As medicine gets better and all these things, we should be living longer, healthier, but it shows we're getting sicker. Like it said, all you got to do is look at a picture from the 80s.
I think it's the FDA, whatever they're putting in our shit. I mean, it's becoming more. My dad is one of those people who are on carnivore diet. Like he does a strict meat-only carnivore. Doesn't eat the vegetables. Like he's like, there's
How
different
old is he?
level. He's just 56, 57. He's ripped.
Yeah.
He's shredded.
Damn.
And he feels like better than ever. And it's just like you said the other night when we were talking. Swelling is like the cause of like everything. Like everything, or it's a symptom of bad things. Like swelling is just, and so it was inflammation.
Yeah. Right.
And so he said, as soon as you start a diet like that, the inflammation immediately in your body, because you're inflamed everywhere, your skin, your organs, your fat, like everything gets inflamed. And so you start living like that, and like, you know, he's like, I feel better than I've ever felt my entire life. He's like, all I do is eat meat.
56.
Yeah, he's shredded. He's got energy, but you do have to reset your body.
Right.
He's like, you know, if you try going straight into this diet, you'll shit yourself. Your body,
Dude,
like,
don't trust a fart. That's real. That is real. Have you ever tried it? You ever tried the
Just
straight? Have you ever? Yeah, I'm not kidding.
Wait, tried to trust a fart?
No, have you ever tried the carnivore diet?
No. I
No?
would love to, but it's just so inconvenient.
Yeah, it
You
is.
can't go when you go out to eat. You got to be that weird guy that just gets. Well, if you go out to eat at a restaurant, it's not that weird. But like when you're like at a family function or a barbecue, you have to be that guy that's like, well, is this going to be there? If not, I have to bring my own food. And they can't eat like you can't
just hang out and eat
It's-
whatever.
Yeah,
can
like,
barbecue.
and you can't like cheat on it. Like
Yeah.
you just like people that do shit like that, that they'll get their body so in tune that if they have like a carb,
You'll
it'll
feel it.
fuck them up.
Yeah.
So
No, but you're right. You will shit yourself. So I've done it 2 or 3 times off and on.
yeah,
First time I tried it was when I was in New Mexico. And I first heard it on Joe Rogan. They were all of the hype about it. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, let me try this. And this was when ribeye was $8.99 a pound. So I remember being like, fuck, this is expensive. Now it's $21.99. You know, it's fucking insane.
you carnivore fag.
Yeah, like, but I did it, and I was like, dude, I will say, I would eat. It was true whenever you'd say you could eat like 2 pounds of steak and not feel full. You feel satisfied, but you're not stuffed. And it was weird because I remember one time I did that. I was starving. I'd made 2 steaks for the day, and I ended up eating both of them right then and there. I was like, oh, I have to make some more. And I was just satisfied because there's 0 carbs. It's just the meat. So you just have all fat and all protein. But within that, about 2 or 3 days in, I think it was like 3 days in, I could hit the wall from here, just out my ass with just diarrhea. Like
Because
it just,
you're supposed to lean into the carnivore diet. You're not just supposed to strip your body of everything it's used to
yeah.
and start eating just meat.
And it lasted like, I lost, I want to say it was a lot. It was almost 10 pounds in a week, maybe less than a week.
Yeah.
And then
Was
in
it
2 weeks,
good, or were you shitting it all out?
Well,
was
like-
it like fat loss, or was it
no,
like
it was
water loss?
I didn't change anything about my workout. It was just that, but I was way more shredded. I was like,
Really,
holy
just because
cow.
no inflammation, no shit, no.
Because all you got is you need fat, you need protein. Like people say low fat and all this. No, you need high fat, high protein. You need low carb. Like, and you don't even have to completely get rid of carbs. I ended up implementing a little bit. I think I was at like 50 a day. I was like, you know what?
Like a vegetable.
Yeah, because I just felt like I was starving all the time. But I felt good at that. But I couldn't increase that because if I did, then I'd start. Oh, I'm fucking full. You know, I wouldn't feel satisfied like I did. I had like more steady energy. So, but maybe it's because I just went straight into it instead of trying to lean into it. So maybe if I leaned into it, then I could have just stayed on straight meat. Maybe my body was just in such shock. Like, because I love Chinese food. All the shit in there like stimulates you.
GMOs.
Yeah.
Oh,
stimulates
yeah.
your
Chinese.
ghrelin.
Yeah.
And that's why you get hungry an hour later.
And it fucking and it's the worst reheated. Chinese food, it doesn't really fulfill you.
Really?
Oh, you can't have leftover Chinese.
I beg to differ.
Oh,
I could.
all the gooey sauce just turns into a tar when you reheat it.
Yeah, but it's still good. It doesn't bother. Are you weird about leftovers? In
No,
general?
I'm not. Just
No?
Chinese leftovers.
Really?
It's fucking disgusting.
Dude, that's weird. I'll let it, even if it's been sitting out. I'm like, like if I forgot to put it in the fridge or something, like that should still be good.
Yeah.
If it's like a couple days later, my girlfriend will get mad at me.
On the counter a couple days later.
Sometimes, yeah. So, like if I forgot that it was there, I go like if I left
How
for
do you
shift.
forget? Oh,
Like,
because you're gone
if
for
I
days.
didn't,
on
yeah,
end.
if I didn't put it away, and then I just leave it, because then the next morning I'm just all cranky and I'm waddling out the door at 4 a.m.
It's like-
and then I'll come back.
We
and I'll go,
just talked last night about how flies fucking land
Oh.
on food and plant maggots in it.
Well, you know, I didn't really time it, but if my stomach was messed up after, I probably didn't blame myself. I'm like, oh, I probably ate something bad, but it's probably the Chinese. Maybe it was the Chinese. Maybe it wasn't the carnivore diet. Maybe it was just bad Chinese. I
Did
keep
you
eating.
have Chinese?
I don't know. Maybe I don't know. I probably didn't pay enough attention. I'm like, oh, I just got the shits.
We are Counterculture 8. How's everybody doing tonight?